and then all the other social media accounts and projects.
Wow. How do you keep track?
I'm losing it slowly.
Well, thank you for having me either way.
Thank you for joining. Yeah, and happy May long.
Yeah, I know. Typical Calgary with a little bit of snow, right?
Yeah. Do you have any plans for this weekend?
Just gardening. My kids are avid. Well, my son in particular is an avid gardener. So May long as always, let's go get the plants in. So.
Oh, that's lovely. Have you gone down to Costco or any of the stores yet?
Yeah, we hit Costco last week, and so currently my kitchen table is covered with plants because of the snow yesterday. So, and then we like to go down to the Crossroads Farmers Market because there's a lady there who always has the best hanging tomato plants. So.
Oh, no way.
Yep.
I haven't been to the farmers market in a while, but I do want to go. It's been a minute.
I know, right? Yeah.
Hopefully, slowly everything opens up and things will be good again.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah. In time.
Exactly.
How has it been for you with the film industry, with everything that's been going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been everything's a little erratic, right? So a lot of things are happening, but it's not in its normal schedule or place and time. So that's okay. It'll all pick up when it's ready. I mean, it's supposed to be a great year for Calgary. So I think all of us are hanging on with crossed fingers going, yay, this will be great.
So Dawn, for the listeners, I mean, you have a cool story. I actually have so many of the videos up here. I actually love your Vimeo demos. They're fun.
Oh, no. Yes, okay.
And Peter did a great job producing it. So it's really cool to see. Wow. Good job, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I worked with Peter when I had taken probably 10, 12 years off when I first started having kids. And so I was trying to find my way back into the world. And I worked with Peter to make that demo. And it was so fun.
Was it hard to get back into the world after being away from it for so long?
Yes and no. I mean, I think if anything, it's an industry that really requires a certain level of confidence. And so when you've been away for a while, that gets a little bit of shaky. But at the same time, particularly as a woman, the roles that I came back to were far more interesting and intriguing and meaningful. And so that part was really exciting for me to come back to roles for women, not for girls. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Now, what does that mean exactly? Like roles for women versus...
Well, a lot of the stuff I went out for, like in my 20s, early 20s, it was always the kind of love interest ingenue, a lot of, will you take your clothes off for this kind of thing. And so it's a very specific type in that age group. And so coming back, suddenly now I'm looking at doctors and lawyers and nurses and mothers and roles that actually have a little more integrity to them, I guess. And I enjoy that a lot. Yeah.
When you look back at the previous roles, were you, I guess, upset with yourself to say, oh, I shouldn't have done those roles? Or is that part of the journey?
Yeah, I would say it's part of the journey. I think as an actor, I'm not uncomfortable with performing things because they're not necessarily me, even if they're of me. But at the same time, I'm not, I'm kind of classically one of those people who doesn't do small talk, and I dive right into like heavy, deep topics. And so just as a human being, I'm more interested in things that have a depth to them. So it's just a different world.
What has been some of the topics that most fascinate you in life? Because obviously you're big in women empowerment.
What I'm interested in, honestly, is sharing stories about people who are different than what we normally hear. And so in my theater career and in my master's degree particularly, I got really interested in how we can use theater making to empower people to share their stories in a new way. And I really enjoyed working with a lot of marginalized people to help them create plays and producing those plays and putting them out in the public. I worked a lot with people with disabilities and people with mental health concerns, and a lot of youth stuff, little LGBTQ stuff, whatever the people that I met, I would work with.
Has it been taboo, or is it now being accepted?
I wouldn't say it's taboo. I would say that what I come up against is a lot of people will say that's not art, that it's social work. So I often fall through the kind of pre-described boxes that certain arts worlds will put you in. So if I want this grant, I don't quite fit in this grant. And if I want to be part of this project, I don't quite fit in there. And in many ways, I like that. I like that I'm filling in places that nobody else does. But it can be, always a little challenging, a little winding to find my way, which is kind of how I ended up in public art, actually. Because I did this work, kind of empowering people to tell their stories, I ended up working in the field of what's called community cultural development. And so I ended up working for the public art program, doing all of their community engagement. And I got really super excited about that it's like a new medium. Like, everybody can tell their story in a different way, and whatever medium supports their story the best can be used. And so, in a lot of ways they seem like different practices, but it's the same thing. I'm helping people. Yeah. So I love that.
What made you get into this? Was it something that you dealt with, that you said, hey, I need to spread my story, and in the interim, I'll let everyone else's story come with me? Or how did you find this empathy? Because not many people have it. Or if they do, they hide it.
Oh, interesting. I just found it fascinating. So much of our media is so the same. And we see these kind of stereotypical stories over and over again, and we start to believe that those are true. But when you actually talk to people and find out little bits about them, their journeys may not be represented, and it's fascinating. Their journeys are amazing, and I just wanted to share that.
It's storytelling, and I think people that's what people buy into, is the story. Obviously, you're spreading good in the community. That didn't just happen. Something flicked in you to say, hey, I need to become this person. Because you could have just done like what many actors do, or many people in film or in business or whatever, just focus on themselves. You said, no, I'm going to bring this part of me out there.
Interesting. My passion for theater began when I was young, because I was so shy. And like, I always tell this story because I was just like desperately shy. I wouldn't answer the phone because, past the word hello, I didn't know what to say. And I had such intense social anxiety about saying the right thing and doing the right thing that I was paralyzed. And so my mom, being, the lovely mom she was, she put me in improv classes, which was a horrifyingly painful experience. And I failed miserably. And the teacher was very clear at the end. He was like, you are never going to be an actor. It is not for you. And, I was, I think, 11 at the time. And there was this little fire in me when he said that went, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. And I kept going. And I remember the day that I was in school, in drama class, and I was in a scene and it clicked, and I started saying things openly and clearly in front of the classroom because I wasn't me. I was performing through someone else. And it was this very kind of revelatory experience to be able to go, I'm free within this space to say whatever and do whatever, and present part of humanity, I guess. I don't know. And that's really when it started for me, it was this place where I could escape from the confines of what I believed I needed to be and present something else.
Or when you're by yourself, how do you know who you are? Because you're all these other roles. Is it tough?
Well, I think acting always comes through you, right? And so what I've learned over the years is that, as much as I might define it as becoming someone else, it's not. It's about giving permission to reveal a part of myself. And so what makes an actor really interesting is that everything they show you is coming through them. And so a part of them is being revealed through what they share, which is why it's such a powerful art form for sharing stories, because people are revealing themselves, but it's a very empowering way to do it. And so it's kind of healing, really, in a lot of ways.
Are we all actors?
Kind of, don't you think?
I really do think, well, when you go outside, you present yourself a certain way at your job, out at the grocery store.
Hmm. And don't we all learn language? And I worked. I still do work for the city, so I can speak, city jargon when I'm there, and I can speak, kid language when I'm here, and I got gym language over there. I mean, they're just roles we play.
No, that is super cool. And there's a lot of mirroring. So when we grew up with certain things our parents did, we start doing.
Hmm. Absolutely. Doesn't that happen more as you get older when like things
Yeah.
come out of your mouth, you're like, oh.
I sound like my father.
Yeah, yeah,
That is funny. Yeah, it's an and when we're younger we laugh at it. We're like, what? That's such a silly word or such a silly thing that your dad does and now I'm doing it. So.
I know. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think it's funny that as we become more ourselves as we age, really then that's when it starts to be revealed even more is this connection to history, which is fascinating. Yeah.
I mean, even this podcast, I started in mid-January and I said, okay, I'm gonna just do audio only. Because that could have been easier. I could have been in my pajamas and I could have done it. But when you have the video on, you literally have to be on
Yeah.
uh, and look a little presentable, I would say, just a slight bit.
I don't know, that's kind of deteriorated over COVID, hasn't it?
It has, and I don't think people care really, And I think that's some of the beautiful things that have come out of COVID is it's not about what you look like, what you have. It's who you are as a human being. Are you a good person? Are you a nice person? Do you care about others? I think that's what people want to see, especially in a time where there's so much polarization and anger.
Yeah.
We're all tired. We all don't want this. So we just got to be nice to one another, I say.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
What are some of the positive things that have come out of this past time for yourself?
There's been so many, and I sometimes like I'm afraid to tell people that because they want to hear the negative, but like, simple things like I don't have to like rush every morning through traffic to drive my kids off to school. Like, we get up, we turn the computer on. It's really kind of nice in that way. And one of the things I really love is, because everybody went online, I have access to all of these courses and information from all over the world. And so I've signed up for so many things and I've taken all of these classes with some of the best teachers in the world because they're here. They're like in my office. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Artists, all these artists who maybe I wouldn't have been able to see unless I went to a gallery, they're all online now. And so I can actually find them. And so I love that.
What kind of courses have you done recently?
A lot of personal development, some public art, taking some acting classes with David Rodenberg. And yeah, just
Have you ever looked at Masterclass?
yeah, I have actually. I follow a masterclass. Yeah,
Oh,
I haven't taken any yet,
it's
but
expensive. I was like, oh, it's so tempting. You got all these great producers and directors, but I was like, okay, I'll just wait for their Boxing Day sale.
yeah, good call.
No, that's awesome. Have you seen the industry shift, or has it kind of remained stagnant through this time?
The film industry, you mean?
Yeah.
Um, Calgary's, I work with people in Toronto. I have friends in Vancouver, and the industry is different in all of the places. So I don't know. There's, a fascinating shift because of COVID. I have a friend in Toronto who that's her entire job now is to manage all of the COVID restrictions. And
Oh, wow.
so that changes a lot. It changes a lot of the roles that come out because they want potted families. So get a lot of requests for me and the kids, which is fascinating. Which is, great. My kids are into it, but, not in the same way that I am. They just.
Does your kids want to be actors as well and actresses?
My daughter possibly. My son, I think it's more just something fun to do in the meantime. I mean, he's young enough that, when he's on set, they just want him to be himself. And how nice is that, right? Yeah.
What are some of the most challenging roles that you've had to portray?
Oh, I have to think
Hmm.
through what I've done there.
You know, when we see Heath Ledger or we see Robin Williams and we see certain individuals play these roles, I do believe it can take a real toll on their mental health.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say a lot of that comes down to acting technique and personal wellness as well. So I think that's important to understand. Um, I mean, Red Letter Day was probably my most challenging role simply because it was the biggest role. And there was a huge emotional arc that was required through the course of the journey. And because it was about a mother protecting her children, there's a certain, closeness to reality in that regard that makes it, a challenge to go forward with. But
There was something I wanted to talk to you about on your personal practice on focusing on your body positivity and feminism,
Mhm.
bisexual politics, and experiences of women in isolation. What does that exactly mean, Don?
My role in the public art program at the city, I'm going back a bit to provide context for you here. So, my role in the public art program was this community engaged art practice, and I did more admin and facilitation work. And once I left that role, I still do a lot of admin and facilitation contract work, but I've also tried to establish my own public art practice and understanding my own way of, I mean, social practice is the art form. Ultimately, I use people as my medium for developing art projects. Some people use
Interesting.
paint,
No, that's super
I
cool.
use people. Um, and so the specific issues that I'm interested in exploring right now in my art practice are around feminism. Specifically, right now, I'm looking at the she session, the kind of effect COVID has had on women. Um, and and so I've been focusing on those particular issues in my practice or my understanding in social practice. So
Wow,
that's yeah.
super cool. And how would you showcase, I guess, would it be an experiential art project, or how would you be able to showcase humans? Would it be through video? Is that the art medium you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, right now we've been working with photography, and I'd like to eventually work with video, little tiny short videos. Um, but yeah, the idea I use theatrical techniques. I use a lot of Auguste Boal uh, theory and build and facilitate with groups where we share stories and create imagery together, and then we will then photograph it or video it, and in the same way that I used to do it for plays.
Right. What is his theory that really resonates with you?
Auguste Boal took the Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paolo Freire, and he talked about how using theater for untrained actors as an opportunity to stand up to the oppressions in their life. And so basically, he used it as a way to have people practice being empowered in their world through the stage. And he devised a whole series of techniques around that in order to create plays. And then once the plays were performed, they were these live interactive plays where you could actually stop and start and get people to go in and replace characters. And it was very much about practicing. And I've always been quite fascinated by that form, but I'm really interested in simply the techniques of how to get people to share their story by building these imageries together. And often they create a play by breaking it down into these little tableaus or images that represent how they feel. And so you can stop right there, right? You can just create that image together and then photograph that image. Then you can bring that image to life.
What would that image contain, and what exactly would that image be?
It's usually the expression of an emotion. So it's the way that you would visualize or represent your emotion in a shape. And that can be, using other people to create an image around you, which we can't do right now. So, in Zoom, we play with, how we kind of use this little box to kind of create a frame. We use a lot of objects. And what we found really works well, particularly for women, is food. There's this really interesting emotional connection when people start to play with food or use food in a way that's different than is expected to be used. And it creates these really fascinating and very funny images sometimes. So yeah, anyway.
That is fun. Yeah, it's abstract as well. I mean, what you're getting these emotions out of people playing with food. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah.
How much do you believe Zoom is going to play a part moving forward?
I mean, people are sick of it, and aren't we all? Like, sometimes I was saying the other day, I don't even want to watch a show at night because I'm so tired of looking at a screen. But at the same time, it has opened up so much more connection and opportunity, and the simplicity of not having to go places to meet people. So I think it will stay to a certain degree.
I mean, I guess I thought we were opening up in January, so I got another microphone across the table saying, "Oh, I'll bring guests here and this will be so exciting. I have a chair right in front of me."
Yep.
But you know what? This is so much better. You're in your own home. You can move on with the day and I can move on with my day instead of saying, "Dawn's coming over. She has to drive." I don't know if we've become a lazier generation or more productive.
Yeah, could be. I agree. Although, I will say, I find like one-on-one, it works really well. When I'm facilitating groups, it's a lot more challenging. Have you done group Zooms trying to get everybody?
Not on a podcast, but I have done like a friend's baby shower, a birthday party, and a wedding, and it's just like literally everywhere. And you just see some really random things that are happening in their homes, like they're eating while they're like, it's just like falling off. There's like no shame. There was no shame anymore.
I was in a meeting the other day and this woman was adjusting her bra. You forget, right? But, I've done a lot of group facilitation over the years. And what I really find in a group meeting is I can feel the room. And I can gauge the direction I need to go based on the overall feeling in the room. And in Zoom, that's really hard to do. And it feels a little more chaotic because in a large group, if you're in the room together, when people are moving or drinking their coffee, you almost kind of delete that movement from your mind. But in Zoom, you see it so clearly that it becomes really
distracting.
Yeah. So that I won't miss. Like I look forward to being in a room with people again.
I was a little worried to do podcasts on Zoom as well because you can't read the other person's energy.
Yeah.
And it's something you can't see, but you can feel it when there's an individual in the room. I think it works one-on-one, though. I think it's been great. Yeah. Have you thought about doing coaching?
What kind of coaching?
Acting coaching?
Oh, I have done some in the past. Yeah. I taught for a while, and one of my theater companies, I did a lot of teaching through it. And I did some coaching for a show called Super Dry Cleaners, where I coached the youth in there. So I've done a bit over the years, here and there.
What is your goals, Dawn, looking forward in doing projects and work? What is your goals that you want to achieve in the next, year or two?
More.
Give me more.
More. I look forward to the freedom to continue to create the projects that are meaningful to me. So just to continue to find ways to do that.
Who gives you the energy and strength? Because, oftentimes we have to look within ourselves, but there has to be people around you, the right people around you to give you that push when you're down. Who does it for you, Dawn?
I would say my creative co-collaborators for sure. When you find people that you work with who you kind of have that mental shorthand with, and they just kind of get you like that. And then we feed off of and support each other really nicely. So Shannon Smith is an artist I work with a lot, and we continue to, because we just get each other. And I also have a lovely friend, Mia, who's she and I used to teach yoga together, and she's a life coach too. So I really rely on her to just kind of, run ideas by and share things with. So yeah.
Is some things that you're really pushing forward to doing or wanting to showcase? Hey, this is me going forward, or this is me now.
Oh, sure.
I'm a new person.
Yeah, I'm a new person. Well, I'm always waiting for that big break acting role. So I'm kind of like always prepared and ready to go. In the meantime, I keep myself busy with my other projects. So Kitchen Feminism is my big one right now. It was a project. The women who were involved were super passionate about it. So we turned Kitchen Feminism into an art society. And we have an entire kind of 1.5-year program plan of projects laid out. And so I'm trying to find funding for that right now to support the future of those projects, which are really just kind of lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek ways of women coming together to connect, to share their stories about how COVID has affected their life. And that's just a way to do that.
Between us, well, I guess I like how I said between us, but there are listeners going to be on this. What are some of the things that women have gone through, or women particularly have gone through this pandemic? Why can't I talk today?
The unemployment rate, the job loss for women has been astronomically higher than it has been for men. I think it's 90% of the job loss is women's. And largely that's because the roles that women continue to hold in society are roles that are perhaps less valued. And so they're the ones that are the immediately removed ones. Often those roles are caregiving, which I find so fascinating that we negate the value of caregivers in our society so much, but childcare workers, cleaners, all the things that are kind of like optional or seen as less important. And so that's why so many women lost their jobs, particularly women who were already more vulnerable. So women of lower income brackets and women of multicultural backgrounds, those are the ones who really, really suffered. So all of those kind of compounding inequities in society were really exposed.
I was watching Global News yesterday, and they're talking about, in particular, women, sexual abuse has gone up and domestic abuse has gone up, like over the roof. And the lines are not available. Some of these safety lines to get out, and where are they going to go? They say, they have a family. Again, like you said, loss of job, so the independence.
Yeah.
I just can't believe we're at that level still in our life. It shouldn't have happened, but letting women go because they're less important.
Yeah.
Or what is it, when they both want to get a position, a woman gets less paid than the man? What in the heck? Like, I grew up with women around me, mom, sister, and dad was out working too, and mom would work. Mom was like the whoosh in the house.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know, there's and all my cousins are women, so it's been around women all my life, and I think I can't imagine how they are dealing with this and why we're still here. We're in 2021.
Yep. But it's one of those issues that, it's been around for so long that people almost forget that it's still there and it's important. And, it goes back to that media, like Gina Davis did that really big speech. Sorry, I can't recall.
Oh, yeah. She's just, what was it? It was that same thing. I'm just going to pull up then. Yeah, she did.
Yeah. And I think the stats of that was fascinating because, really at that time, which wasn't that long ago, women were 17% of what was represented on screen, to the point where even in crowd scenes, only 17% of the crowd would be women. And because we're so used to seeing it, our minds actually believed that women were represented because they were present. And I find that fascinating to know that our pop culture media affects our minds so much that that's what we believe is normal. And so these are the things that I question, right? And I sit with my kids and I drive my kids crazy because we'll watch a movie and I'm like, count. count how many women are in that scene, count how many characters are women. And, we'll sit there and just look at stats. Or my poor daughter, every time we're driving anywhere and she's listening to her favorite pop music, I'm like, okay, let's pick out the misogyny in this song, shall we? It's a game we play, but it's so prevalent and so common that we forget to question it. And all I'm asking is that we question it and look at it.
Well, it's funny. I used to like hip hop and rap, and now I listen to some of the lyrics. I'm like, God damn it, really? You guys are saying those things? Like, it's so. I don't know if I'm getting older, but I'm like, damn, that's inappropriate. Like,
Right?
And it's gross. It's like, how can you say those words? And how are you okay? Like I always say is, imagine your mother's listening to what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Highly inappropriate, a lot of those things.
I know, but it's still.
Yeah, it's got to stop, and I hope it does. How has it been to get grants and funding?
Well, for me, it's like I said, I always fall between the cracks, so it's always been a challenge for me. I just keep digging.
Yeah. But our city or our government says that they've got so many great projects or grants for projects.
Mm-hmm.
How come we never see them into fruitation and we never see them get funded?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that. I don't know what happens on the inside. I've worked in the government. I know how complicated and bureaucratic it is.
Oh,
and
of course.
Yeah, I get that. I know that it's highly, highly competitive, and that every single little bit of money, there are hundreds of applications that go through. And so, they do the best they can with what they have.
Have you ever looked at private funding to get this done?
Yeah, I mean,
or like a private sponsor?
Yeah, I would love that. It's not, I guess I just don't know how.
Well, and I run this, like I said, I have 200 social media accounts. One of them is called Grubbed.
200?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So one of them is called Grubbed, and it's focused in food and beverage. And then we run something called YYC Takeout and all these things. I think, I'll talk to a few people because, we're always looking for projects to build with people on. And I think Grubbed is, it's all food and beverage and restaurant industry. Yep. So I think doing the kitchen thing with what you're doing, and maybe even going in kitchens of restaurants and having this photography there and that style.
Oh, interesting.
I know. That's your creative direction. I'm just saying. I'll leave that part to you.
Kitchen feminism for me, it was, I've always been very pedantic about how I name projects, but for me, it was because I was stuck in the kitchen. And I still identify as a feminist. And there I was, a short order cook for my family, where I had not left the kitchen for months on end. And all I wanted was to do a project from my kitchen that would somehow continue to contribute to society in some way.
Did you ever bring your hubby there and say, hey, you stay here now?
Well, my partner's a woman.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
That's okay. And so that's, for me, that was one of the kind of inspirational things, was that, despite the fact that we're two women who are supposed to be outside of these kind of standardized gender roles, because I carry the more classically feminine roles in our relationship, I was the one who was suffering. I was the one who had less work, who was suddenly expected to take care of the kids more, who, even though the kids were home more, I had to do 98% of the housework more. And I was like, well, if that's happening for us in this couple that's supposed to be outside of this standard, what's happening in other families? And so I just started to ask that question. And the minute I asked that question to any woman, they would break down into, this is what's happening.
Jesus, yeah, I'm happy you did that though. Oh my God. Hey, this is a conversation. It needs to be opened up, and I think you're doing a great job. So I appreciate you being a voice here. It's needed.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Well done. I will let you go to your normal life, and hopefully it's not in the kitchen.
It probably is, I have to say.
I gotta go clean my kitchen too. So.
Oh, good.
We're both there together.
In it together, Zach. I appreciate it.
Thank you again, Dawn, for your time.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
All right.